Mind-altering meat. Ever heard of toxoplasmosis? Nope. That's okay. A bit surprising though, given that nearly a third of the planet's population is affected by toxoplasmosis. Yep, as much as a third. It's caused by this parasite here. Toxoplasma gondii is a single-celled organism found worldwide. It is particularly prevalent in hot, humid climates and at lower altitudes because its oocysts survive better in these environments. Domestic and feral cats play an important role in the spread of this parasite, as cats are considered the organism's definitive host. But our frisky felids are not always to blame, as one European study recently demonstrated. And today we'll get into some of the popular questions on this topic. Despite the global impact of toxoplasmosis, probably the most impressive fact about this parasite is the behavioral changes it causes in those who are infected. There have been numerous animal model studies that have demonstrated how infection with toxoplasmosis is associated with risky behaviors leading to predation. The best example of this is how infected mice are attracted to the smell of cat's urine. Yep, you heard me right. Potential prey such as mice are attracted to their natural predator. Such attraction enhances the likelihood of predation and thus the spread of toxoplasmosis, because the parasite needs to infect cats for its sexual reproduction to take place. Perhaps even scarier is that these behavioral changes are not limited to animals. Toxoplasmosis has also been linked to behavioral changes in humans. Like what, you might be thinking? Well, in people, it has been associated with schizophrenia, suicide attempts, and good old road rage. But the list doesn't end there. This parasite has also been shown to influence personality and risk-taking behaviors in a wider sense, and was a positive predictor of entrepreneurial activity in a recent study. Now, in no ways are we suggesting that toxoplasmosis is a good thing when it comes to your aspirations to make millions of dollars. If you're interested, head over to our blog to read a bit more about the mechanism behind these behavioral changes brought about by this parasite. The parasite forms egg-like structures known as oocysts that are shed in animal feces. Toxoplasma can also form small pockets or tissue cysts in muscle tissue, which is another important means of spread of the parasite. Humans typically become infected by either eating food or drinking water that has been contaminated with these oocysts shed in the feces of infected cats, or by eating meat containing tissue cysts. The same can be said for the transmission of the parasite with our beloved four-legged friends. Now, avoiding the former sounds easy enough. My partner has this covered by getting me to clean up the cat litter trays and the plentiful mishaps around our house. But what about infected meat? In short, a resounding yes. So, unfortunately, it's possible to detect Toxoplasma gondii in a whole host of different meats and other foodstuffs. From venison to raccoons and milk to bacon and cheese, you name it, and someone has probably, and thankfully, done a study to see if this parasite is present or not. Eating raw or rare meat, particularly lamb, pork, kangaroo, and game meat, including offal such as heart, liver, and tongue, is an easy way to put yourself and your pets at risk of toxoplasmosis. Poultry, including chicken, duck, and geese, is another possible source. Yes, the list does go on, and it includes things you can see on this table. So we're looking at milk, particularly unpasteurized goat milk. We're looking at raw unpasteurized cheeses, wild boar, goat meat, and shellfish, such as oysters, clams, or mussels. A study by Iqbal et al. Looked at the presence of Toxoplasma gondii DNA in retail meats in different Canadian provinces. The authors found parasite DNA in 4.3%, or 12 out of 281 packages of ground beef, chicken breasts, and ground pork. If it's any consolation, and perhaps something that might stop you from completely switching to being either a vegetarian or a vegan, Toxoplasma isn't generally frequently found in beef. The first and probably most widely used recommendation is to cook the food. Cook food to safe temperatures. Now this depends on what meat you're dealing with and also the cut of the meat. Broad categories to consider include the following. You can have whole cuts of meat, basically excluding poultry. You can have ground meat, again excluding poultry. And then when you look at poultry itself, this can either be whole cuts or ground poultry. Ideally, you want one of these guys, either a digital meat thermometer or a food thermometer, to measure the internal temperature of cooked meat. It's worth mentioning that color is not a reliable indicator that meat has been cooked to a temperature high enough to kill harmful pathogens such as Toxoplasma. If, like me, you prefer some of your meats on the rare end of the spectrum, or if you feed raw meat such as this to your pets, there are other ways of reducing your and your pet's risk of contracting toxoplasmosis, although I'm probably a lost cause. Apart from cooking the meat, another effective means is freezing it to ensure that the oocysts, if present, are rendered non-viable. In other words, they're not going to cause any problems. Here's what you do. Freeze the meat for at least 3 days. Then defrost the meat either in a fridge overnight or in a microwave. Research has shown that freezing meat at -10 degrees Celsius for 3 days or at -20 degrees Celsius for 2 days killed the parasite and their cysts could not recover. So, you might be thinking how cold a typical household freezer is. Great question. On average, this is around -18 degrees Celsius, or 0 degrees Fahrenheit if you're more familiar with those units. In short, using your household freezer to freeze the meat is more than adequate to render the oocysts non-viable. Just to point out, while freezing can be useful in reducing the risk of parasites such as Toxoplasma, it's not a catch-all solution for possible foodborne parasites. For example, freezing does not reliably kill other parasites, such as certain species of Trichinella that can be found in meat, nor does it do anything for harmful bacteria. That's why cooking the meat is still considered to be the safest method to destroy potential parasites and pathogens. Other things you can and should do in order to minimize the risk of toxoplasmosis includes the following. Don't drink unpasteurized goat milk. Don't eat raw or undercooked oysters, mussels, or clams. Practice thorough cleaning of cutting boards, utensils, surfaces, and hands after contact with raw meat, poultry, seafood, or unwashed fruits or vegetables. Empty, clean, and change the cat litter daily. Toxoplasma does not become infectious until 1 to 5 days after it is shed in a cat's feces. Be sure to wash your hands thoroughly after cleaning out a cat's litter box. And very important for at-risk individuals such as pregnant women, infants, and immunocompromised persons, they should always avoid contact with cat litter trays. If you're going to cook the meat, what do you need to do? As mentioned earlier, safe temperatures, measured with the help of a food thermometer placed in the thickest part of the meat, depend on the type of meat that you're dealing with, as well as the cut of the meat. Head over to our blog to see the recognized safe temperatures for the different types and cuts of meat. This depends on how the treats are processed. In other words, treats that are cooked or even air-dried are less likely to be contaminated with toxoplasmosis, provided the meat in question is cooked or heated to safe temperatures. When it comes to freeze-dried treats, because there is no kill step as part of the process, parasites and harmful bacteria can pose a potential problem. If meat is adequately frozen, though, before freeze-drying, this can reduce the risk of toxoplasmosis. Toxoplasmosis is widespread, affecting people and pets across the globe. There are various ways that you can reduce the risk of toxoplasmosis for both yourself and your pets. If you're not cooking meat, be sure to freeze it to render any Toxoplasma oocysts that might be present non-viable. Also, practice good hygiene, both in the kitchen and when it comes to managing cat litter and accidents around the house. Okay, well, I'm off to work on my entrepreneurial activities after popping this meat into the freezer. If you're keen to see more videos like this, please subscribe and we'll be sure to keep the content coming. Thanks so much.